America, that woman screaming at the Salt Lake City airport thought she was boarding a flight to Washington. Instead,
ICE says they took Leva into custody because she came into the country from El Salvador illegally back in 2007 and then had a removal order from 2020.
After months, she finally got deported.
I'm talking to Marta Renderos Leva.
Cuando yo iba caminando, ellos de repente por detrás.
And the woman who apparently spoke perfect English during her arrest mysteriously only speaks Spanish now when she's given interviews about how traumatic this experience was.
No hablo inglés.
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me show you what's really happening with ICE enforcement, from the airport drama queens to the actual deadly consequences of failed border policies. Let's start with Miss Marta Leva, because her story is an absolute masterclass in selective memory and convenient language barriers.
The family tells me they were about to walk through the TSA line when they were stopped by the men.
So she, quote unquote, follows the law, except for the part that a federal judge issued a deportation order in February 2020. And she just ignored it. That's not following the law. That's hoping that the law forgets you. But wait, guys, it gets even better. Her attorney says USCIS sent a notice to appear for an interview to a West Valley address, but she never lived in West Valley, apparently. So either the government sent it to the wrong address, or somebody, maybe even Marta, gave the wrong address. Either way, convenient.
Marta Renderos Leva and I spoke from everything from the moment she was arrested at this airport to being deported and detained by ICE.
Que no se lo deseo a ninguna persona.
I'm talking to Marta Renderos Leva, the woman in this video who was arrested at the Salt Lake City airport last October.
Cuando yo iba caminando, ellos de repente por detrás me dijeron, "Lady, stop."
She says she was very confused.
Yo no soy una criminal, yo no soy una delincuente.
She says she had a lawful work permit. She said the officer ignored her concerns.
9 days in Salt Lake County Metro Jail, 12 days in another place, 1 day in Texas, 2 months bouncing between two facilities in Arizona, then Louisiana, where Miss Martha says the conditions were the worst. 100 people in one room, humid, wet, smelly, beds wet near the walls. Sounds like Louisiana to me. And through every transfer, every flight, she says that they were cuffed at their hands and feet. She didn't understand why. Well, Miss Marta, maybe because you've been dipping and dodging deportation orders for over 4 years. Maybe they just thought that you were illegal on the run. Illegal on the run. Now, here's where it gets absolutely hilarious. Watch this progression.
She had a work permit and had no criminal history. 2 News looked into it and found she had 2 parking tickets and a crossing guard infraction.
So ICE issues a deportation order back in 2020, but then the USCIS issues a work permit in 2020. One agency says to leave and the other says that you can work here legally. Very confusing, just like the entire Biden administration. And you're supposed to just kind of figure it out. But here's my favorite part. During the arrest at the airport, Marta is speaking English. She's speaking English. The family is explaining everything to her in English. Her attorneys are filing motions in English, and she understands officers in English. And then she gets deported to El Salvador, and suddenly it's all Spanish. It's all Espanol. A full interview in Spanish. Every answer in Spanish. Like she just forgot English existed during her 4-month detention tour. Now I know what you guys are thinking. I'm not saying that Miss Marta is playing it up for the cameras, but I'm also not saying it, if you know what I'm saying. Because if you spoke English well enough to work here in America for years, you don't just lose it the moment you get deported. Now, while Marta is out here complaining about being cuffed during transfers, let me show you what happens when there's illegals on the run.
A special education teacher was killed in a road crash on Monday. Police say the driver accused of slamming into her is an illegal immigrant with a deportation order who was allegedly speeding away from ICE agents.
Dr. Linda Davis, special education teacher, driving to a staff training day at her school, and she was killed by Oscar Vasquez Lopez, an illegal immigrant from Guatemala who was ordered to leave the United States in 2024, decided to run from ICE agents. He pulled over, made a U-turn, ran a red light, slammed into Dr. Davis's vehicle, and killed her, all while fleeing federal agents who were just trying to do their job and remove somebody with a deportation order.
Both the Savannah mayor and Chatham County Commission chairman have questioned whether ICE officers contributed to the crash by pursuing the suspect.
Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? ICE didn't run a red light. ICE didn't flee. ICE was trying to enforce a legal deportation order on somebody who shouldn't even have been here in the first place. But sure, let's blame the agents instead of the illegal immigrant who chose to run and kill someone rather than face deportation, face their consequences. Makes total sense to me.
DHS is blaming the media and sanctuary politicians for emboldening illegal immigrants to resist arrest in the first place.
DHS got it exactly right. When you spend years telling illegal immigrants that ICE is evil, ICE is the bad guy, that deportations are cruelty, that they have the right to be here regardless of court orders, you create this type of resistance. You make them think that running is an option. And teachers like Linda Davis, unfortunately, pay the price. Now, while all this is happening, Democrats have decided to shut down the Department of Homeland Security over ICE reforms.
The clash over immigration enforcement now has the Department of Homeland Security locked in a partial government shutdown. The policy changes likely won't be enough for Democrats who want reforms to ICE codified into federal law.
That's why ICE needs to be reformed in a dramatic, bold, meaningful, and transformational manner. And if that doesn't happen, the DHS funding bill will not move forward.
Let me quickly translate what you just heard. Democrats want ICE reforms codified into federal law, or they won't fund the Department of Homeland Security. They're literally holding border security funding hostage to force policy change that would weaken immigration enforcement. And what are these quote-unquote reforms they're demanding? Watch this.
ICE needs to be reined in.
The clash over immigration enforcement now has the Department of Homeland Security locked in a partial government shutdown. The policy changes likely won't be enough for Democrats who want reforms to ICE codified into federal law.
That's why ICE needs to be reformed in a dramatic, bold, meaningful, and transformational manner.
Dramatic, bold, meaningful, and transformational. That's Democrat garbage speak for make it impossible for ICE to actually enforce immigration law. Because if you can't abolish the agency, which they tried, you just attempt to regulate it into uselessness. Kind of like Maxine Waters.
The Trump administration made significant changes to its enforcement tactics after 2 Americans were shot and killed by federal officers in the Twin Cities.
So Trump and his team already pulled back on some roaming patrols after 2 Americans were shot and killed during an enforcement operation in Minnesota. They're now focusing on known public safety threats who are already in custody. That is a major operational shift there. But it's not enough for Democrats because they're going to lose their voter base. Who are they going to pander to? They want it to be written into law that ICE can't do mass deportations, can't detain certain categories of immigrants, and basically can't function as an immigration enforcement agency.
The Trump administration is expanding ICE's ability to detain legal refugees. According to a Department of Homeland Security memo obtained by CNN, the department is broadening the Federal Immigration Authority's ability to detain legal refugees who have not yet obtained green cards.
According to a Department of Homeland Security memo, ICE can now detain legal refugees who have not applied for green cards within the first year in the United States. Not illegal immigrants, legal refugees who came through proper channels. The memo says these refugees need to be brought back into DHS custody for a review and interview to determine if they're eligible for permanent legal status or if they need to be placed into deportation proceedings. Refugee settlement groups say this could affect thousands of people who are legally present in the United States, and unlike illegal immigrants dodging and dipping deportation orders, these are people who followed the rules. rules. And speaking of people who didn't follow the rules, let's check in on California, where ICE enforcement has basically become a game of whack-a-mole.
Homeland Security sources say the Trump administration plans to move away from the roaming patrols that define the immigration crackdown in Minnesota.
So Tom Homan went to Minnesota, created a unified chain of command, and shifted enforcement to focus on migrants who are already in jail for some other crimes. That's safer for the community, safer for agents, all according to Tom Homan. Translation, the roaming patrols got a little too messy after 2 people were shot and killed. So now ICE is only going after people who are already in custody, which means if you're an illegal immigrant with deportation orders and you just stay out of jail, you might be safe. At least in Minnesota. This is a compromised position here, not because it's better policy, but because it's politically survivable after the Minnesota incidents. And California sanctuary cities are treating even this limited enforcement as quote-unquote outrage. Gavin Newsom is threatening lawsuits. City councils are passing resolutions condemning ICE. Police departments are refusing to cooperate. And the whole time, people like Oscar Vasquez Lopez are running red lights and killing teachers because they know running from ICE is a viable option. America, what you just witnessed is immigration enforcement as political theater. Democrats cry about Marta being cuffed during transfers while ignoring that she's been dipping and dodging deportation orders for 4 years. They blame ICE for a crash caused by an illegal immigrant fleeing agents. They shut down DHS funding to demand quote-unquote reforms that amount to non-enforcement. Meanwhile, Linda Davis is dead because someone who should have been deported years ago decided that running from ICE is worth killing an innocent teacher. Marta spoke perfect English until the cameras showed up in El Salvador. Then suddenly it's only Espanol for her. The message is clear here. Playing the victim is more valuable than telling the truth. And the Democrats' entire immigration strategy depends on you believing that enforcement is cruelty, regardless of who dies as a result. The DHS shutdown continues, ICE reforms are stalled, and somewhere right now, another illegal immigrant with deportation orders is calculating whether the run is worth the risk. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.